Donald Johanson glanced down, and the world was never the same again. Half buried in the ancient soil lay a fragment of a femur, a thigh bone, belonging to a two-legged creature that had walked this earth 3.5 million years ago. The team froze. Nobody spoke. Then someone exhaled, and the silence shattered into disbelieving laughter and tears. That night back at camp, a Beatles song crackled through the portable speaker into the warm African night. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And so they named her Lucy, the oldest, most complete skeleton of an early human ancestor ever found. She was barely a meter tall, this woman of the ancient world, but she stood upright, she walked, she lived, and she had been waiting 3.5 million years for someone to find her. Lucy, scientifically known as Australopithecus afarensis, was not just a skeleton. She was a message, written in bone, whispering across the millennia. Humanity began here, in this soil, in this heat, in this land that would one day be called Ethiopia. But Ethiopia's story does not begin and end with Lucy. No, this is a land so ancient, so layered with history, that every time someone digs, something extraordinary surfaces. Stone tools dating back 2.5 million years. Traces of the earliest modern humans. Footprints of peoples who thought before they could write. The earth here does not just hold the past, it is the past. You can trace Ethiopia's written history back roughly 5,000 years. Ancient Egyptian texts speak of a mysterious, wealthy land they called Punt, the land of the gods, a place overflowing with gold, ivory, frankincense, and ebony. A land so magnificent, so otherworldly in its abundance, that the Egyptians believed it must be touched by the divine. Many historians believe this Punt was none other than the Horn of Africa, the very region that is today northeastern Ethiopia. Around 1470 BC, Queen Hatshepsut, one of the rarest creatures in ancient history, a female pharaoh, dispatched a grand naval expedition to Punt. The carved reliefs of the Deir el-Bahari temple capture this journey in breathtaking detail. Enormous ships returning laden with exotic trees, animals, perfumes, and treasures, while the Egyptian people gazed on in wonder. Contact between these two great civilizations, Egypt and what would become Ethiopia, predates European knowledge of this continent by thousands of years. Think about that. While Europe was still in its infancy, these two ancient giants were already exchanging culture, goods, and ideas across the Red Sea, building the foundations of civilization itself. Perhaps no legend burns brighter in Ethiopian memory than the story of the Queen of Sheba. In the Bible, in the Quran, in the ancient oral traditions of the Ethiopian highlands, the same story echoes through the ages. A queen of incomparable wisdom and beauty travels to Jerusalem, drawn by the reputation of King Solomon, hungry to drink from the well of his knowledge. But the story does not end there. According to Ethiopia's great national epic, the Kebra Nagast, or Glory of Kings, from the union of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, a son was born, Menelik I. And Menelik, when he came of age, traveled to Jerusalem to meet his father. He returned to Ethiopia carrying something that no treasure in the world could match, the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest that held the 10 Commandments of God. This is not merely legend to the Ethiopian people. This is history. This is identity. This is soul. In the ancient city of Aksum, inside the Church of St. Mary of Zion, there are guardians who claim, to this day, that the Ark of the Covenant rests within those walls. No one is permitted to see it, not presidents, not priests from other lands. Only one chosen guardian, who dedicates his entire life to its protection, knows what lies within. He is chosen. He cannot leave. He serves until his last breath. Impossible to believe? Perhaps. But in a land where human life itself first took its breath, where bones 3.5 million years old rise from the soil, anything is possible. Around the 1st century AD, one of the most powerful empires the ancient world had ever seen rose from the highlands of northern Ethiopia, the Aksumite Empire. At its peak, Aksum was recognized alongside Rome, Sassanid Persia, and Han China as one of the 4 great powers of the world. 4, the entire world. And one of them was African. Close your eyes and picture it. While Rome was wrestling with its barbarian invaders, while Europe was drowning in the darkness of its early Middle Ages, Aksum was minting gold coins, commanding fleets that ruled the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean, and conducting trade with India, Arabia, and the Mediterranean. Aksum was not a tribe. It was not a modest kingdom. Aksum was a true empire, sophisticated, wealthy, powerful, and proud. But perhaps the most world-shaking event in Aksum's history was what happened around the year 330 AD. A young Syrian Christian named Frumentius arrived at the royal court. He taught, he preached, he prayed, and King Azana, moved by something he could not fully explain, declared Christianity the official religion of the Aksumite Empire. With that single declaration, Ethiopia became the 2nd country in the world to adopt Christianity as its state religion, after Armenia, but before Rome, before every European nation, before the empire that the entire Western world would come to regard as the cradle of Christendom. Ethiopia was already there. The great obelisks of Aksum still stand today. Towering stone columns, some stretching over 20 meters into the sky, monuments to an empire that shook the ancient world. One of them was stolen by Mussolini's forces during World War II and hauled off to Italy, where it sat for decades as a trophy of conquest. The Italians took hundreds of years to return it, and when they finally did, they left it carelessly on the pavement, as if it were luggage. But the people of Aksum received their obelisk, raised it high again, and celebrated. Because these columns are not merely stone, they are the memory of a nation. When Islam was born in the 7th century AD, and the early Muslims faced violent persecution in Mecca, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave his followers a direction to travel. Go to the land of the Abyssinians. There rules a just king in whose realm no one is wronged. The Negus, the Christian king of Ethiopia, opened his arms. He sheltered the Muslim refugees. He protected them. And when the emissaries of the Quraysh arrived, demanding that their runaway subjects be handed back, the king refused. He had listened to the words of the Quran being recited. He had wept, and he would not betray these people. This extraordinary moment planted a seed of mutual respect between Islam and Ethiopia that would flower across the centuries. For hundreds of years, the great Christian and Muslim communities of this land lived side by side, building a civilization that was not defined by one faith, but enriched by two. This is not just tolerance. This is something rarer and more beautiful. It is genuine coexistence born from genuine respect. In the 12th century, a king named Lalibela had a vision. He dreamed of building a new Jerusalem, a holy city of God, right here in the heart of Africa. Many thought it impossible. Many thought it mad. Lalibela began to build anyway. What he created defies comprehension, even to this day. 11 churches, carved entirely from living rock, not built upon the earth, but excavated out of it. Tunnels and stairways and bridges linking them underground, like a sacred labyrinth beneath the highland soil. The Church of Beit Georgis, St. George's Church, rises from the earth in the shape of a perfect Greek cross, its roof flush with the ground, its walls carved clean and straight by human hands alone. When you see it, your mind refuses to process it. You think someone built it on top of the mountain. Then you realize someone hollowed it out from inside the mountain. They reached into the rock and pulled a cathedral from its heart. These churches are not just architecture, they are a declaration. They say, "We are here, we believe, and we will carve our faith into the bones of the earth itself, so that nothing, not time, not conquest, not forgetting, can ever erase it." The 19th century was the century of the scramble for Africa. The hungry, arrogant powers of Europe, Britain, France, Belgium, Portugal, Germany, Italy, descended on a continent like wolves on an unguarded flock. At the Berlin Conference of 1884, European representatives sat around a table and drew borders across Africa with a ruler. Not a single African was present, not one. They divided a continent they had never truly known, colonized peoples they had never truly seen, and called it civilization. By the end of the century, almost all of Africa lay beneath the boot of European rule. Almost all. Two exceptions remained: Liberia, founded by freed American slaves, and Ethiopia. Italy had its eye on Ethiopia. In 1895, the Italian army marched in. Emperor Menelik II said very little. He was quiet, calm, but in his calm, a storm was forming. March 1st, 1896, the Battle of Adwa, 80,000 Ethiopian soldiers, men and women who carried rifles, who hauled water, who performed surgery on the wounded and pulled survivors from the wreckage of battle, faced 15,000 Italian troops. When the sun set, more than 6,000 Italians lay dead. The Italian army was shattered. The plan was in ruins. Ethiopia was free. But Adwa was not just a military victory. It was a thunderclap heard around the world. For the first time in the entire era of European colonialism, an African nation had decisively defeated a European power on the battlefield. The shock wave was felt on every continent. European newspapers were baffled, disbelieving, furious. But for every person of African descent, for every colonized people on Earth, the news landed like a bolt of lightning from a clear sky. The colonizer can be beaten. Adwa did not end colonialism, but it proved it was not inevitable. And that proof changed history. 40 years after Adwa, Mussolini came for his revenge. This time he brought mustard gas. This time he bombed Red Cross hospitals. This time he burned villages. Even this was not enough to break the Ethiopian spirit. In 1941, with Allied support, Emperor Haile Selassie returned to reclaim his throne. The Italians were driven out, and the news rang across the globe. Haile Selassie may be the strangest, most extraordinary figure of the 20th century. In Jamaica, the followers of the Rastafari movement venerated him as the living embodiment of the divine, the second coming of Christ, clothed in African flesh. Bob Marley sang about him. Marcus Garvey had prophesied him years before his coronation. Look to Africa, when a black king shall be crowned, for the day of deliverance is near. In 1930, Haile Selassie placed the crown upon his head, with all the pageantry of an ancient empire, with dignitaries from across the world watching, in a small but unbowed country that had never been truly conquered. Inside Ethiopia, however, the picture was more complicated. Selassie was a modernizer. He built schools, established universities, wrote constitutions, but he concentrated power in his own hands like a man gripping a fistful of sand, growing tighter the more it slipped away. When the famine of 1973 came, a catastrophe that killed hundreds of thousands, the imperial court continued to feast. The people starved. The emperor's lions were fed meat. A BBC documentary captured this obscene contradiction, footage of death and starvation, cut against footage of lavish palace banquets. It was perhaps the most damning indictment of a regime ever broadcast. In 1974, the military staged a coup. Haile Selassie, the man who was a god in Jamaica, was driven from his palace in an old Volkswagen. A year later, in captivity, at the age of 83, he died, or was killed. History is still not certain which. What followed was among the darkest chapters in Ethiopian history. The military council known as the Derg, led by Mengistu Haile Mariam, gripped the country in what it openly called the Red Terror. Thousands of people, intellectuals, students, teachers, anyone who questioned the regime, were executed without trial. Their bodies were left on the streets. Their families, if they wished to reclaim their loved ones, were charged for the cost of the bullet. History will never forget this. Then came the famine of 1984, perhaps the worst in Ethiopia's long and suffering memory. The images that journalist Michael Buick broadcast on the BBC, children with swollen bellies and hollow eyes staring into the camera with a gaze that reached through the television screen and grabbed you by the throat, brought the world to its knees. Bob Geldof formed Band Aid. The song "Do They Know It's Christmas" was recorded. International aid poured in. But a bitter truth emerged later. Mengistu had weaponized the famine. He deliberately withheld food from regions that opposed him. He redirected international aid to loyal areas. What the world believed to be a natural disaster was, in part, a political instrument, a tool of punishment, a weapon of mass starvation. More than 1 million people died. More than 1 million human lives extinguished. In 1991, the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front overthrew Mengistu. He fled. He found refuge in Zimbabwe, where he lives to this day, a man who orchestrated mass murder and was never made to answer for it. After the Civil War, Ethiopia faced the task of rebuilding from rubble. Poverty, illiteracy, disease, trauma piled upon trauma. But this is a people who have lived in this soil for 3.5 million years. They know how to rise. They have always known. In 2018, a young man named Abiy Ahmed Ali, 42 years old, half Oromo, half Amhara, raised both Muslim and Christian, a man who embodied Ethiopia's extraordinary complexity, became prime minister. In his first speech, he spoke of peace. He extended his hand to Eritrea, the sworn enemy that had sealed its borders for 20 years. And that enemy reached back. 1 year later, he received the Nobel Peace Prize. But peace is never simple, and history does not run in straight lines. In 2020, civil war erupted in the Tigray region, a conflict whose wounds have not yet healed. Modern Ethiopia continues to wrestle with enormous challenges. Ethnic tensions that can be both the nation's greatest strength and its most dangerous fault line. poverty that still claws at the rural heartlands, climate change threatening the agricultural foundations of a people who have farmed this land since the beginning of human memory. And yet, Ethiopia has something that most nations do not possess: depth, historical depth, cultural depth, spiritual depth. These are a people who have survived famine and refused to be erased, who faced colonialism and defeated it, who endured dictatorship and outlasted it, who always got back up. The Ethiopian economy has been among the fastest growing in Africa. Addis Ababa, whose name means new flower in Amharic, rises into the sky with glass towers and a modern metro, a city reaching toward the future while standing in the deep roots of an ancient past. Ethiopian long-distance runners, champions like Haile Gebrselassie and Tirunesh Dibaba, have made the world stop and stare in awe, bringing glory to a nation that has always known how to endure. And coffee, that cup you drink in the morning, the one that makes the world make sense, it comes from Ethiopia, from the Kaffa region, from which some believe the very word coffee is derived. A goat herd noticed that his goats became unusually energetic after eating certain red berries. He brought those berries to a monastery. The monks boiled them. They too felt the energy. And from that humble discovery in the Ethiopian highlands, a drink spread across the Arabian Peninsula, through the Ottoman Empire, into Europe, and eventually into every corner of the world. Every single morning, billions of human beings wake up and reach for Ethiopia, and they do not even know it. Ethiopia is the only country in Africa that has preserved its own indigenous alphabet, the Ge'ez script, which today forms the basis of the Amharic writing system. These curved flowing characters are not just letters. They are the symbol of an identity that colonialism tried and failed to destroy. When every other African nation had its language and culture crushed under the weight of European rule, Ethiopia kept its script, its calendar, its language, its soul, and yes, its calendar. Ethiopia follows its own ancient system, 13 months, 12 of which contain 30 days each, and a 13th month of 5 or 6 days. The Ethiopian calendar runs 7 to 8 years behind the Gregorian calendar. When the entire world celebrated the year 2000, Ethiopia quietly said, "Not yet. We are in 1992." And the country's tourism slogan, Ethiopia, 13 months of sunshine. Ethiopian music, with its haunting pentatonic rhythms and the electric guitars that in the 1960s and 70s gave birth to Ethio jazz, is among the most original music on earth. It communicates directly with the human soul, bypassing language and culture entirely, reaching something deeper. Musicians like Mulatu Astatke built sounds that the world is still trying to understand, melodies that seem to come from a different dimension of human feeling. And food, the spongy injera bread, the rich layered stews of wat. Eating Ethiopian food is not a solitary act. You do not eat alone. Everyone gathers around a single large tray. Everyone reaches from the same place. This is not just a dining custom, it is a philosophy. It says, we share, we are together. What is mine is also yours. If you had to summarize Ethiopia's history in a single sentence, if such a thing were even possible, it might be this. Ethiopia is a land that never surrendered, not to European empires, not to famine, not to dictatorship, not even to forgetting. From Lucy, that small ancient woman who slept beneath the soil of Afar for 3.5 million years waiting, to Abiy Ahmed, who stood before the Nobel Committee and moved the audience to tears with his words about peace, there runs a thin but unbreakable thread. That thread has a name. It is called resistance. It is called memory. It is called the refusal to disappear. Today, Ethiopia stands at the crossroads of past and future. With more than 120 million people, the second most populous country in Africa, it carries enormous challenges, open wounds, and unanswered questions. But it also carries the energy of a young generation that knows exactly where it stands, exactly where it came from, and exactly where it wants to go. In Addis Ababa, the new flower, there are young people writing code on laptops, making music that will outlast them, composing poetry in a script that has survived 3,000 years. These young people are the heirs of Lucy, the heirs of Aksum, the heirs of Adwa, the heirs of everything that was, and everything that is yet to come. Ethiopia is not finished. Ethiopia will never be finished. Because a land whose story stretches back 3.5 million years still has many, many chapters left to write. And the story goes on,